G'day everyone, Brett here and welcome to Self-Reliance Australia. Now I want to start this video off this week with a huge thank you because I've cracked the 200 subscriber mark. Now I know that's not a lot of people but for me it's a huge deal. It's 200 and I have to be surprised. I never thought I'd actually get 200 people subscribing on the channel, so that is fantastic, and a huge thank you to all of you that have subscribed and keep coming back each week to watch the crazy things that I keep doing. And look, I just hope that it's still adding some value to everyone as we go through. Look, it is a bit raw. It's a bit, look, it's just what I'm experiencing as we go through the property. You know, it's interesting that we got people coming to the house sit for a while and they go, gee, there's a lot of things to be doing. And generally when people come to stay, everything's done. So they get to come and rest and do nothing and have a holiday. And what they don't see is all the work that goes on behind the scenes to be self-reliant and to live on a property, so there isn't things to do when people come down to come and stay. But for those of you that are, you know, on this journey with me of trying to be a little bit more self-reliant, you'll know it actually takes it's a lot of hard work. It's definitely not for the privilege that someone tried to tell me once. It's actually a lot of just hard work. But it's enjoyable work. It's physical work. It's outside in the fresh air. It helps us keeps us healthy, but also we take accountability for the type of things that the lifestyle that we want to live, which means taking control of or accountability for our water, our food, and I guess the environment in which we want to raise our family as well. So thank you again to everyone that has subscribed, and just a huge thank you. Also, I want to do a shout out this week to Leroy's. So Leroy's, mate, thank you for your comments on a regular basis. Really appreciate them, and also your insights as well. So there's things that you've suggested that I'll be trying on the property, especially talking about trying to keep the kangaroos away from the fruit trees. Like I know that you're getting a lot of water up there now at the moment. So look, we're experiencing the same thing. So that's what this week's video is actually going to be around. So that's inspired this week's video, which is around how much water do we really need if we want to be self-reliant. So what does it take? How much does it take? And how do you make sure that you have enough, essentially? But like at this time of year, it can get fairly waterlogged. Like I know I mentioned in one of the previous videos that, the shed is a little bit hard to get in and out of. It's been a little bit dry for us this week, which meant we probably could have got things in and out, but haven't had to, so that was all okay. Yeah, so while sometimes it's a little bit hard to move around the property, especially when it is wet like it has been over the last few weeks for us, it is actually good for the plants. So how do I know that I get enough water? Like I actually go out most days and check my rain gauge, especially when I know it has been raining. I will check it on a daily basis. And so far we've had over 1 meter of rain since September last year. So we're now only a couple of days away from the end of June. So I'm now 10 months into that process of tracking how much rain I've had over the 12-month period. So I'm expecting by the end of it, we'll probably get close to about 13, maybe 1400 millimeters of rain. So, excuse me, for those that are overseas, you're probably talking at about, what's that, about four and a bit feet of water or rain a year. So it's a fair bit, but it's probably not so much the rain that we want to get. It's something else that you need to work out how to capture that rain. So anyway, let's go have a look and let's get into it. So just taking a quick walk in between rain showers, and you'll see that I've got a drainage ditch on the top side of the house here, and that's full of water. But generally what will happen is that when I get a good shower of rain, the water will just flow across the paddock above it, and it'll then go into that drainage ditch, and you can see the water then flowing in this particular picture here, flowing across the paddock, and it literally is just like a sheet of water going across, and that can be across half the paddock at any one time. So we do get some pretty decent rain, and that water will come across the paddock. Now some say it flows off the road from up the top, but look, I don't think it does. Most of it actually comes from the rain itself, hits the paddock, and then it sort of flows on down. And then what it does, it'll go into that ditch, and flow into a gully, and then flow into a larger river system at the bottom of our property. Actually, it's probably about 3 or 4 properties away. And I think that's really important, that even though we do get a lot of rain, we don't capture all of it, because it's actually about supporting the health of the local environment and the health of the local bush. That then also supports us. So you can see here, this is where it flows down into the gully, and there's a bit of a spring at the bottom of there as well. And it flows into the bottom of our property where there's a bit of a creek flowing that you can see there. And that flows into the bigger water system. Now, not every property is going to be blessed with having like a waterfall on it. Now, that would be fantastic if we did. I'd probably then, you probably wouldn't see me too much of a dust. I'd have a hydro system working off of it or something. I'd be completely off grid. But no, we don't have a waterfall. But look, it would be nice if we did. But at the end of the day, it's not so much about how much rain you get. It's about how do you capture it. And for us, it's about roof size. Now, that roof may look pretty big because the drone's a fair way up in the air, but that's actually about the same size as my shed as far as roof size goes. So with the amount of rain that I mentioned at the very start, that has been enough so far. So we've got enough tanks. We've got 2 tanks, and it probably holds about 54,000 litres, and that gets us through the year. Now, we've been close a couple of times to running out, but generally that's been enough. And so, ideally I'd like to put another tank on to sort of future-proof that, but there's no point putting more tanks on if the roof can't capture it and put it in there. So the real question that you need to be asking yourself when you start talking about going off-grid and controlling your water supply is, how big is your roof size and how much water can you capture in your tanks? So there you go. Look, that was a very quick video about the water supply. Like, I know, you've heard me say it many times. One of the things that was important for us when we did become self-reliant, or started down this path of being more self-reliant, is about, what can we control? And well, the first thing that we could control is actually our water supply. So we are on tanks. We don't have any town water coming in. So we've been able to have nice rainwater. We're not in a farming area that does does any crop spraying. There's a little bit where people do some they just do mass poisoning or to kill the weeds and stuff like that. Look, we don't get a lot of that in our area, but we also then filter our water as well. So I know that might sound like a bit of an overkill when we have nice rainwater and we also then filter it, but look, it has made a huge difference for us, especially just for little bugs and stuff that can get into your tanks. So definitely well worth it for us, and it's one thing that we can control and has eliminated all of our water bills. So straight off the bat, but definitely we get to control what our water is, what's in our water, and the quality that we get to drink, which has been huge for us. And I have to say, it is very, very nice quality of water, and people that come to visit go, wow, your water tastes really nice. But one of the things that they really notice is that they don't have that chlorine smell in the water, which they do need to do when they're talking about mass purification and trying to eliminate bugs from big water supplies, which are, for town water supplies. So look, that for us has been really important. But look, I hope that this has been helpful in some way, because it's not always about the amount of water that you get, it's about how much you can capture. Like, I've worked with a guy before that, they used to get 6 inches of rain, so 150 mils a year was like their average rainfall. Like they lived out in the desert. But they still survived. Like, they lived out there on their farms, and they, watered their crops. They had a swimming pool. They used a lot of bore water. But they obviously had very big tanks as well. So when it did rain, they had big sheds that they captured a lot of rain, and they made the most of that, 150 mils when it did rain. We're fairly lucky, as I said at the start. We'll be well over, probably 1.2 meters of rain this year, which is a lot of rain. As a result of that amount of rain, we don't need huge tanks. We don't need a lot of tanks, but what we have is enough. So thanks again. Thanks for joining us. If you've enjoyed that video, please give us a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you found it useful, please share it with your friends as well. So until next week, I'll see you then.